So at the start of 2023, I started and scaled my agency and got it from zero to $50,000 per month in under 90 days. And the most important thing that allowed me to scale so rapidly to get to the point where the agency is booking meetings, signing clients, generating revenue, all without me, all automated, all signing clients, is the habits that I had on a daily basis, right? It wasn't the outreach script, it wasn't the sales script, it wasn't the courses that I took. The most important thing that I focused on were the things that I did every single day. And the best part about this is for every single one of our clients now, we share these habits with them and they end up getting the exact same outcome in terms of signing clients, booking meetings, scaling incredibly fast because they just adopted the inputs that I had and they got the same outputs. So this video is going to walk you through the 5 most important habits that I had in going from 0 to 50,000 per month that you can use today. So the first and arguably the most important habit that I followed was something called walking feedback. And as stupid as it sounds, every single morning before I even started doing any work, I would wake up and I would just walk. It sounds extremely stupid, but the thing is, on these walks, what I would do is, instead of going straight into a task like most people do, instead of going straight into, mindless work, just doing whatever they can think of, when I was running the agency, I realized that the most important thing that I could do was figure out firstly what to work on. Because if you're just working on some random task, some task that doesn't actually move the needle, then the agency is not going to grow. So what I would do every single day is I would speak to myself while I'm walking around my house. It looks so stupid from the outside. But what happened was I would speak through the business's goals. So let's say I was at 0 per month, I wanted to get to 50K, and I would actually speak to myself and I would ask, okay, I want to get to 50K, I'm at 0 now. What's the main thing that I need to do to get to that point? What's limiting me? And this is the key question that I asked. I would ask, what is limiting me from going from where I am to the next goal? And what happened was I would realize, okay, while I'm walking, I'm at 0 now, so I need more clients. And how am I going to get more clients? I need more bookings. How many bookings do I have per day right now for the agency? How many sales calls am I taking? None. So the priority at this point is getting more bookings. And then I would realize, okay, this is the bottleneck. This is the limitation to the business's growth. So what I would do is I wouldn't focus on anything else until I solved this problem. Okay, and I kept doing this over and over. So let's say I was at a point where bookings was the limitation, right? I didn't have enough bookings in the agency. Then I would realize, okay, I need some sort of system to get more. So that's when I started the outbound email system, and this got us to around 1 to 3 bookings per day. And then I started the LinkedIn system. This also got me around 1 to 3 bookings per day. And at this point, I was taking, let's say, 2 to 7 sales calls per day. And I realized, okay, the next limitation is sales capacity because we're getting more bookings, but we don't have enough sales calls. So every single day, I would go through this process. I would walk around, I would talk to myself, I would ask myself, what's the limitation in the business? So what you can do right now is look at your agency and ask yourself, what is limiting the growth of your agency? And be completely honest with yourself, right? If it's the case that you have clients, but you don't have time to deliver, then it's the case that you need to hire more people. You need to get yourself out of certain tasks so that you can scale up and free up time so that you can spend more time on sales calls or hiring a sales rep so you can get yourself out of the day to day. And this was the first habit that I followed in order to get to the 50K per month in 90 days. The next habit that really helped in getting there was actually acquiring new knowledge. So when I was trying to scale up really quickly, I would be listening to certain information and some people would be telling me, look, you need to be reading all day, 3 hours per day, constantly learn, constantly study. But on the other side of things, people are like, you don't need books, you don't need more info, you just need action. Just work hard, do it now, just take action. But the thing is, there were 2 opposite sides. There were 2 opposite opinions on what to do. So what I thought was, how can I take the most action in the business? Because that's really what's going to move the needle. But at the same time, how can I get new information to determine what to actually work on? Right? In my eyes, the only point of reading or getting new information, whether it's a book, whether it's a course, whether it's speaking to someone else, is to determine what the best tasks to work on are. Right? Why else would you read a book? You read the book to get the perspective on what tasks are actually going to move the needle. And then after you figure out what those tasks are, then you take rapid action until that's done, and then you find the next thing. So instead of spending time reading books, actually getting a book out, sitting down, going across the pages, reading, while I could be working, what I would do is I would use idle time. So time where I don't cook, I was going to say that, but times where I'm, walking somewhere, when I'm brushing my teeth, I'd just have AirPods in, and I would just listen to books, right? And these were books, not podcasts. These were actual proper books. But instead of, sitting down, turning pages, I would actually just listen to the books. So whenever I was in an Uber, whenever I was, eating food, I would just be consuming information. And even though your focus may not be 100% on the actual book, even though it's not as, optimal as reading the actual thing, you're not using any additional time. So because of this, I can be eating dinner, right? as usual, but at the same time, I'm reading books like Principles by Ray Dalio, like The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, like The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. These are all some of my favorite books that I just consumed by listening to them, right? I don't even think I've finished over 5 physical books because I would just listen to all of them. So I've probably read over 200 or listened to over 200, but read, around 5. So by doing this, I was constantly getting new perspective. And this is especially important if you're in a situation where, let's say you're living with your parents, let's say you're in high school, and there's constantly people who just aren't on the same wavelength as you. They may be super negative. They may be like, oh, this agency thing's not going to work. Oh, you should just go study. You should just, not do any of this stuff, right? Especially when you're in environments like this, it's the most important time to actually get and keep these perspectives. Because if you're not getting new information while you're in an environment that's actually pulling you down, then you're just going to get pulled down. But by getting this new information, by learning from entrepreneurs, by learning from people who are doing better than you, it's just going to constantly raise your way of thinking, your mindset. I know mindset's such like a, arbitrary thing, but it's true, right? The way you think about the world. By getting this new information, it's just going to allow you to, take better actions, to have better thoughts, to see the world more positively. And this consistently is what's going to allow you to get to the point where, you move out of the house, you scale the business, whatever it might be, whatever your goal is. This is a massive habit that I'd highly recommend. Now, the third habit is putting your phone on airplane mode. Now, as simple as this may seem, just taking your phone and putting it on airplane mode when you go to sleep and then keeping it on airplane mode till 1 p.m. is probably, if not the most effective productivity hack that I've ever used in my life. So early on, I learned from a mentor the idea of productivity is more about removing the bad things as opposed to adding more good things. So this is when I was probably still in high school, right? I was probably ending high school. I was around 17, 18 years old. And I really learned this when I was watching a Sam Ovens video. And he was talking about being more productive by doing less of the bad stuff. So instead of trying to get, new to-do list software, having a better desk setup, having all these fancy things like these ring lights and, headphones and binaural beats, instead of that, Sam recommended, and I think he was making like 50 million per year at the time, he recommended just removing every possible distraction, anything at all. And by doing this, you're just naturally going to be productive. And this is, to this day, the most effective productivity hack I've ever found. Just removing all the bad stuff, like removing Instagram, removing TikTok, removing your phone, and just having a laptop with no notifications and just the work. And if you have that, it's like, how do you procrastinate? Like, there's nothing else to humanly do. So when I was first starting the agency, when I was making nothing, every morning, and this is even when I was in high school, when I was studying for exams. Like, again, this applies to everything. So what I would do is, at night, before I slept, I'd turn the phone on airplane mode. And simply put, I would put the phone in another room. I'd wake up. I wouldn't check the phone, or I wouldn't turn the phone off airplane mode. I would check it just to see what the time is, because I didn't use an alarm. I would just wake up anytime. I would check that, and then I'd just go straight to work, right? I wouldn't even turn it off. So I wouldn't see Instagram, I wouldn't see WhatsApp notifications, I wouldn't see text messages, I wouldn't see messages from girls or friends or family or anything. And I just got straight to work. And what you realize is that it's not that you're wasting time per se if you checked your phone, if you didn't turn it off airplane mode. It's more the case that you're protecting your attention. Because when you see something on your phone, whether it's TikTok, a message, anything, and you haven't done your actual work yet, all it does is it takes your attention away from it, and it kind of like sticks in your brain. If you get a message from someone and then you just choose not to reply and then you start working, now you're thinking about that message. And so a percentage of your brain is actually being taken by that message just by you checking it. So imagine you open your phone and you see 20 notifications, right? It's 20 things taking your attention away. So how are you going to focus? And this is why so many people are TikTok brained, in the sense that they can't focus for more than 30 minutes because their mind is so scattered on 10,000 things, right? So by doing this, I promise you, if you do this for 7 days at least, don't check your phone, don't check Instagram, don't check WhatsApp, and just go straight to work, I promise you, if you do this consistently, your focus will skyrocket, right? I used to be able to focus for like 5 hours on end. I'd probably take like a break in between, like after 2 hours. So 2 hours of deep focus, break for like 10, 15 minutes, back into work 2 hours, and the amount of work you can get done doing that is insane. Now, the fourth habit that really allowed me to scale incredibly fast and to avoid, burning out or losing passion. I don't really believe in all that. But the habit is the idea of building stress tolerance. Now, what this means is that most people think that when you get stressed, you have a certain capacity. And once you get past that, you burn out and you need a nap and you need some Netflix and some ice cream. But in reality, if you believe that your stress tolerance, the amount of stress that you can handle, whether this is messages from people, things going wrong, you being tired and you still have to work, all of this, by believing that you can build up your stress tolerance like a muscle. So every time you get stressed, every time you max out your capacity, you do things that are difficult, you build it and it gets stronger. If you believe this, then you'll get to the point where you can handle so much more in a day, where in the past you couldn't have done it at all. So when I was first running the agency, I could get a negative message from a client. Not even a negative message. They would just be like, Ethan, when is this being released? And I'll be like, and I'll just panic because I didn't have stress tolerance. So the same in that I could be working and I could get 7 hours of sleep instead of 8. And then I'd be like, oh man, I'm so tired today. My brain's so foggy. I can't do work. That is literally how I would think because I had no tolerance. I didn't build it up. So what would happen was I would get into these stressful situations. It'll be 11 p.m. I get an angry client message, right? I need to fix something. The Stripe goes down. I can't collect payments. All these things are happening. I solve it instantly. I'm here at 1 a.m. just working, solving some random issue. And by doing this over time, you build up your stress tolerance and you get so used to it. Another one was sales calls. So I would have one sales call and I would just be exhausted when I first started the agency. So I would just take the call. At the end of it, I'd be like, bro, I need a nap. It'll be 1 p.m. 1 p.m. and I'd be like, bro, I'm done for the day. But now it's gotten to the point where after doing it so often, by getting so used to it, I would take 7 sales calls in a row, 7 hours of being on calls with people and selling. And this is coming from an introverted person. I don't even like sales calls. But because I'm so used to it, because I built up the stress tolerance, it just allows me to, deal with it. So now it's completely normal. Now I can wake up on a random Wednesday and be like, oh, okay, 6 calls today. And I still have whatever else, I still have to see some people and I still have 4 hours of work to do. I have to record all this content and I have to, see my family in the evening. I'm doing this on 4 hours of sleep and I've got a cold and all this stuff is happening. I'm like, yeah, okay, normal Wednesday. So if you can adopt the idea that as you do difficult things, as you feel like you're maxing out the amount of stress that you can do, operating on low sleep, having, some girl arguing with you, your girlfriend's angry, your clients are angry, all this stuff is happening all at once and you can just continue regardless and operate under pressure, I promise you, this is going to be what's required to actually get to the next step because you as your current self is not ready to get to the next standard. But only by improving is what's going to allow you to get to the next point. And the final habit that allowed me to get to the 50K in 90 days, and this is how we're scaling to $200,000 per month, is by limiting the amount of dopamine that you get. So when I first started the agency, this was around 2021. And I just got out of high school. I was staying at home. I decided not to go to university because, I'm so smart. I'm going to start a business and, I'm just going to do all of that. Because I did that, I was staying at my parents' house. And I knew that if I didn't get this agency to work, by the end of the year, I had to go to university, right? I had to make this work, right? So what I realized was this is going to be the year of complete focus, right? And luckily, or unluckily, it is the situation, the virus, because that was happening, I couldn't go out regardless. And so I thought, let me just remove all distractions. So I deleted Instagram. I didn't have TikTok, and I never will, but I deleted all of that. I kept the phone on airplane mode nearly almost the entire day. I had no notifications on the laptop, no pinging, no nothing. I couldn't access YouTube, couldn't access Netflix. I had nothing. So what happened was, by limiting the amount of short-term pleasure, there weren't like reels at the time. It wasn't that crazy. It was just TikTok. By limiting all of that, it caused my baseline of fun to go down so much. And it may sound weird, but it just meant that the things that would allow me to feel pleasure, fun, fulfillment, the standard was lowered. So it is like I could have a good day of work, like I could focus for 1 hour, and I would be as happy, as, joyed as if I just scrolled reels. Like I was getting the same amount of pleasure. So because of that, when you remove all distractions, it results in you enjoying the work so much more. So this is what I realized with people like, all the big names in the space. Most of them, to get to the point where they are now you see them, in the clubs, doing all this stuff on their phone all the time. To get to that point, they went through these periods of just focus, right? No distractions, nothing. And the way I visualize all of this, because I always used to see, and this is a side note, I always used to see entrepreneurs talk about, I'm so passionate about my work. I love doing my work so much. It's the best thing. I wake up excited. I didn't have any of that. Like I disliked coming to work. I disliked waking up, opening the laptop, not watching Netflix, not watching YouTube, and just, working, doing like lead sourcing. Like, that is terrible. But what you realize is that by going through the focus work, by limiting your distractions, limiting your pleasure while you're doing this, it makes the work slightly less horrible, right? Slightly less boring. And by doing this, you end up getting the work done, you see results, you sign clients, you make money, and then you start getting yourself out of the day-to-day tasks. And by doing this, you stop working on things you don't like working on, and you only work on things you do want to work on. And this is when business becomes more fun. And this is when it can become a passion or something at least more enjoyable, because you're not doing all these minor things. So like, I personally didn't enjoy sales calls. I didn't enjoy lead sourcing. I didn't enjoy admin. I didn't enjoy client support. So now I have people on my team that does all of these things. And now business is more fun than ever because it's being taken care of and not done by me. So you need to go through this focus period to get to the point where business becomes enjoyable. And then when it becomes enjoyable, this is when you can still have these distractions, but you're always going to be pulled towards the business because it's more fulfilling, right? It's more fun. It's like your thing, it's your thing that you just do it. It's like a default. So at this point, I don't even ask myself like, oh, what am I going to work on today? Or am I going to work today? Even though I could just stop working completely. So when you're starting out, this is even more important than ever. Limiting your dopamine. I'd recommend just removing Instagram, removing TikTok, removing your phone as much as possible. And even when you're further on in the agency space, you're getting to 10K, 20K, 30K, 40K, I still keep this, right? As much as we're scaling now, I'm going to maintain this habit because I know how effective it is. So I'd highly recommend implementing this habit as well. So those are the 5 habits. And if you want a full breakdown of my story from going from 0 to 50K per month in 90 days in a ton more detail, I'd recommend checking out this video over here.